the Kenyan dream as coined by the founding fathers of our nation. And you find it in our national anthem that says, God bless this land of ours. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. What does this mean? God bless this land of ours. Justice be our shield and defender. Justice can only be a shield and defender if there is democracy. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty. Unity means that people who are united, people where there is no form of discrimination, either on the basis of race, tribe, religion, or gender. Peace and unity. Peace. Peace is not merely the absence of war. Peace is not merely the absence of war. Somebody who is hungry cannot be peaceful. A hungry person cannot be peaceful. So it has got a wider meaning, that peace that is talked about there. But finally says, plenty be found within our borders. Plenty be found within our borders is a very strong statement. That plenty was not going to drop like manna from heaven. It was going to be a product of the sweat and toil of the people of Kenya. Meaning what? Meaning that we must create a conducive environment for people to create wealth. People must be enabled to create wealth. And this is freedom and the rights. One is the right to life was fundamental. To the right to health is fundamental. The right to quality education is fundamental. Right to food, fundamental. Right to education. Right to education. So all these were there. But then people were expectant. But over the years, the joy of independence has been tempered by many battles, a struggle that has continued for 6 decades. We have fought poverty. We have fought ignorance. We have fought disease. We have fought corruption, and we have fought tribalism. But these challenges march on with us. In spite of our tribulations and against monumental odds, we have fought and we are still struggling to build a thriving democracy. We are still fighting for individual freedom within our free nation. We have become the beacon of hope for the millions of immigrants for the 4 corners of the earth. We are struggling to forge a free and modern society that lives by the ideals of liberty, justice, and respect for human rights. We have fought and we are still fighting not to let any obstacle stand in the way of our destiny. I have been extremely fortunate to see the emergence and progression of Kenya up and close. First, as the son of a freedom fighter, my father was involved. 2, as the son of the first vice president for a brief period. And 3, as a son of a vice president turned a detainee, a fighter for the second liberation, a detainee myself, as a minister, an opposition leader, and as a prime minister. The people of Kenya endured the pain of colonialism, the tragedy of single-party dictatorship, and the horror of the economic collapse of the 1980s and 1990s, enabled by the elite corruption and the weird policies like the structural adjustment programs of the World Bank and IMF. In these periods of colonialism, elite corruption, and ethnicization of national life, colorless and cruel leaders took away lives and broke apart families through detention camps, jails, assassinations, and state-enabled high level of poverty. But all these tragedies and unfortunate turn of events could not take away the spirit of the Kenyan people. I have seen Kenyans pick their armor of courage to confront dictatorships and bad regimes. This 60th anniversary is therefore a good time to reflect on our past. It is also a time to look to the future. Where will this country be on the 120th anniversary of its birth, another 60 years from today, which will be the year 2083? This is a challenge that I want Kenyans to reflect on. Where are we going to be 60 years from today? Will we still be a country going around the world with begging bowls? Will we still be a country struggling with the weight of corruption, tribalism, lack of accountability, and empty promises for which the promise makers pay no price? Are we able to set the stage for a future of a dramatic departure from the Kenya of today? As a nation, we have always had great ideals on paper, including in our constitution and various policy documents like the Vision 2030. We have values and principles of governance that include patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, the rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people. We also aspire for human dignity, equity, social justice, inclusiveness, equality, good governance, integrity, transparency, and accountability, among others. We aspire to live in unity, peace, and liberty. We aspire to be a nation of plenty. We aspire to be a caring nation that provides the best possible medical care to all its citizens. A nation that provides the best possible education to its children for free. That's why we promised as Azimio free education in primary, secondary, up to university level. We have always aspired to be the nation that extends a helping hand to the elderly, the needy, the widows, and the orphans through social security safety net programs. The founding vision is a critical document for nations that proceed to succeed. Now that we are in Catholic institution, you can turn to the book of Joshua, chapter 1, for an understanding of the value of the founding vision. God talks to Joshua about the founding vision in the following words, and I quote, "Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful." Unquote. Today, you are way off the original dream. The nation is reeling under the heavy burden of corruption, officially sanctioned tribalism, heavy burden of taxation, and a harsh and heartless leadership. We are not the confident nation we have been over the decades. Once upon a time, Kenyans were too proud and so confident of their nation that they refused to seek jobs abroad, including the United Nations. Today, our people are scrambling to leave the country. A recent study by Pew Research showed that up to 54% of Kenyans would wish to relocate from the country. Our children are struggling to get farm jobs in Israel, to be house helps in Saudi Arabia, and security personnel in Qatar. And the president is looking for jobs for them there, to become ayahs there. Government officers themselves, including a whole president, openly say that they're trying to get jobs abroad for Kenyans. Young people with the new skills and knowledge that we need are being exported because the government cannot create jobs. And the government sees it as an achievement. It is the responsibility of a government to create jobs in the country, not to look for jobs outside. When you have a whole president running out there that is looking for jobs for people here, something is terribly wrong. We live on debt, but we still live large. We drove ourselves into the trap of the IMF and the World Bank and their unusual conditionalities that are driving us back to the 1980s and 90s. We are on the downward spiral, and a steady one at that. We are staring at a doomed future. We are uncertain and fearful of what tomorrow holds. We live one day at a time because the longer-term founding vision has been dropped. It is my position that if we return to the founding vision of this country, Kenya can emerge in its 80th or 120th anniversary as one of Africa's greatest democracies and a secure and flourishing homeland for her children. You can emerge as a democratic state that is governed by law, respects human rights, and rejects corruption. I deliberately put emphasis on pursuit of democracy and rejection of corruption as a critical pathway to Kenya's progress. If we return to the founding vision in the coming decades, Kenya will be able to witness a period characterized by tolerance and integration between communities. The country will witness equitable sharing of the wealth that God put at our disposal. If we return to the founding vision, Kenya will live through a period where leaders answer to the people, not the other way around. We'll have a country where leaders focus their energies on important things like funding education schools, fighting corruption, creating jobs here for the children. We educate and casing the burdens of the people. Kenya will then open up a hopeful chapter in which people can live a normal lives. As things stand today, Kenyans are not living normal lives. The dramatic departure the country needs from the sorry state of affairs of today will not arrive easily. Many will say it cannot happen. It will meet violent and even deadly resistance. Transition is a bold vision, but I know it can be achieved. I have been fortunate to live long enough to witness nations and regions turn around their fortunes in 50 years or even less. Think about the current prosperous and stable Western Europe. Europe went through total war and genocide that ended in 1945. During and after that war, it was difficult to believe that 50 years later, Western Europe would be free, peaceful, and prosperous. And I happened to have been Germany, which was the aggressor, and which was completely devastated. Most German cities were razed to the ground by bombs after the war had actually ended. But 15 years later, when we went to Germany and then went to Britain or France, we think that it was Britain and France that lost the war and that Germany won the war. It happened because of foresight, dedication, and hard work of the people. South Korea went through crippling war and sought help from Ethiopia during the war between 1950 and 1955. Ethiopia sent 6,037 soldiers to Korea. Now Korea provides aid to Ethiopia and to Kenya and all African countries. Kenya once upon a time gave aid to Singapore before Singapore zoomed past us. In a mere 6 decades, Japan emerged as a democracy and an economic powerhouse, manufacturing and exporting high-quality products to every household in every part of the world. When I was growing up as a child, people did not want to see anything Japan. Japan quality was known as inferior quality. Nobody touched anything Japanese. Today, Japan is equal to high quality. People don't question Toyota anymore, and so on and so forth. Within vision, a lot can happen in the next 50 years, and I pray that Kenya can rise to the occasion. At this moment, it is proper to recognize and say thank you to the nations and the development partners that have stood with us in our journey as a nation over the last 60 years. And here we talk about the US, the UK, the EU, China, Japan, Korea, among others. We thank you. We have our neighbors to thank for this 60 years journey as a nation. Uganda remains our biggest and most reliable trading partner. We thank them for the loyalty. Tanzania remains a second home to Kenyans because of their friendliness and people-to-people ties across the border. We thank them. We thank the entire East African community bloc of nations for their support and friendship. It is my firm belief that if we made good use of the help and goodwill that the nations like the US, UK, EU, China, and others are extending to us, Kenya can emerge from the poverty and take its place among the economic powers. If we cemented and respected the ties we have with our neighbors, Kenya can cement its place as an economic powerhouse and guarantor of democracy in the region. But something stands between us and the future, which we desire. Corruption is killing our future. Tribalism is stealing our potential. Under the current regime, these two vices are officially sanctioned. The country is divided between people with shares and those with no shares. Shame on them. The corrupt are getting plum jobs and state protection, while those who try to stop corruption get arrested and arraigned on trumped-up charges. In the case of KCP, indications are that NEC as an institution will be sacrificed to protect the cartels. I therefore wish to call on our development partners to partner with us in calling out the ills of corruption and tribalism and that are crippling our country and making nonsense of the aid we obtain from abroad. The transformation of this country deserves requires a generation of leaders with the courage to confront and defeat corruption and tribalism and direct public resources to public causes without discrimination. We need a generation of leaders who stand firm on the solid rock of values and who can tell when the nation is taking the wrong turn. From where I stand and at my age, I know the country is taking a wrong turn when a 14-year-old child has to go to court to seek justice over KCPE marks. Kenya is failing her children. I know the country is taking a wrong turn when workers take home only a third of their basic salaries, the rest going to taxes. When somebody told me that take my salary and give me the tax, I'm better off with the tax than the salary. It is wrong when a person earning 50,000 shillings has to surrender 20.5% of that money to compulsory taxes. We need a change that will make our fathers proud of the nation they founded. We need to return to the original vision of a selfless leadership that will be a light unto other nations. We need to secure this country and its future by building a mighty democracy that can endure and withstand the worst of the challenges to our nationhood that might emerge in future. And I believe